Good morning. I'm Charles Osgood, and this is Sunday Morning. In churches across the land this morning, clergy and lay people are pondering the mysteries of the Spirit. But about how and how much to support the church financially, there's a great and spirited debate. Some believe in a quite specific and continuing financial obligation to their church. Others feel it should be up to them to decide how often and how much to give. Martha Teichner will be reporting our cover story. A spirited debate is pretty much guaranteed whenever people disagree over money. And the debate becomes all the more intense when it also has to do with religion. Our cover story comes from Martha Teichner.
And when Jesus says, I will build my church, he says, financially, I've got a system for you. It's called tithing.
Tithing. It means giving a tenth of your income.
Jesus says, I will build my church.
And church construction is exactly what Pastor Marty Baker is pitching his congregation to pay for.
God doesn't fund the church through bingo nights and through pancake suppers and through chicken dinners. God funds the church through people who are willing to commit the tithe to him.
Over 20 years, tithing has helped transform Stevens Creek Church in Augusta, Georgia. From a few people in somebody's living room to a mega church in the making.
Without tithing, we would not be here. I would say that the tithe probably would be around 70% of our overall budget. The tithe is the heartbeat of our church.
Giving is central to most religions. A principle of faith. Americans donate $295 billion a year to charity, not quite 1/3 of it, $97 billion, to religious organizations. About 4% of the population say they tithe, but that's still a lot of people and a lot of money. Tithing is also controversial.
We believe that everything the churches teach about tithing is wrong.
To tithe or not to tithe is a question hotly debated on the internet.
Should the church teach tithing? That's the name of my book. And there's articles by various different people who basically my viewpoint.
From his home near Marietta, Georgia, Russell Kelly wages war.
I have proven in my book
against preachers who use the Bible to justify tithing.
We believe that if you look at those texts they quote, they are out of context.
But that's not his only objection.
Almost every person I contact on the internet, they tell me the same story, that when they go to their pastor, no matter what kind of church it is, Baptist, Charismatic, Methodist, you name it, and start asking questions about tithing, they are told to shut up, to be quiet, to leave the church.
And the preacher insisted that we tithe.
It happened to his own wife when her first husband was dying.
I had a $5 an hour job, small child to raise. My husband kept getting sicker and sicker. It came to a point whether would I buy insulin for him or would I pay my tithes? So I went to the preacher and I told him.
Janice Kelly didn't expect his response.
He told me I would be cursed.
I'm angry that my church would twist and fleece the flock.
Retired aerospace worker Charles Crabtree got mad when he received this letter from his pastor.
In that letter, they were asking us to tithe, and they used Malachi.
Malachi 3:10 is the most explicit biblical reference to tithing. And God declared, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse.
Protestants, both mainline and evangelical, have since the 1870s fixed upon the tithe and on this Malachi passage.
Yes, only since the 1870s, says James Hudnut Boimler, Dean of the Divinity School at Vanderbilt University. It was a way of making up lost revenue. The First Amendment, in effect, privatized religion in the United States, cutting off the tax money that once supported it in colonial America. The weekly collection didn't even exist until the middle of the 19th century, when churches gave up selling or renting pews.
I'm somewhat suspicious of people who want to turn giving 10% into virtually the only law that applies to people who are under a covenant of grace, where God saves freely, not for 10%.
He says he's reminded of Martin Luther, father of the Protestant movement, who broke away from the Catholic Church because it was selling indulgences, promises of a quicker road to heaven in exchange for cash.
What we see today, though, is a return to this for that religion. Give God this, and God will give you that.
Rolls Royces, Bentleys, corporate jets.
Iowa Senator Charles Grassley wants to know how God happened to give the trappings of a billionaire lifestyle to certain televangelists, and whether donors, among them tithers, are being exploited.
Every time I step off my plane, devils better get out of the way because the blessing has landed.
Grassley, a ranking member of the Senate Finance Committee, has requested financial records from 6 high-flying ministers, accounts of their spending on everything from houses to those jets.
Somebody ought to shout amen!
Since churches are tax-exempt, Kenneth Copeland and some of the other preachers targeted are balking at handing over documents.
We answered them. We gave them a several-page lesson on no.
Hi, I'm Howard Dayton.
Howard Dayton, co-founder of Crown Financial Ministries, doesn't want scandals undermining tithing, which he's all for.
Hey, Heidi, thank you so much for being back on Money Matters.
Hi, thank you.
Dayton runs a faith-based financial counseling service.
Can you just give me a quick snapshot of where you are financially?
His radio show can be heard on 4,000 stations worldwide in multiple languages.
Well, I think our number one goal has, no matter what, do not cut our ties.
Often, callers like this one are drowning in debt.
Howard, Heidi mentioned that they were going to continue paying their tithe,
yes,
even though they were still paying off all that debt. You would agree with that?
Well, I would. I mean, and the key in their case was they cut down in other areas. It's not a you have to give a tithe. It's you get to participate in helping other people, in helping to fund your local church or God's work. It's a privilege.
You know, that responsibility has been passed down to us.
Back in Augusta, Georgia, at Stevens Creek Church, just to make paying up easy, Pastor Marty Baker has installed giving kiosks. Some parishioners call them God's ATMs. Last year, they took in $300,000.
Every year we have a finance meeting that we lay it all out and say, this is what your money is being spent on. You can look around here and see the growth of this congregation, and it's very easy to determine what the money is being invested in.
Hey there, how are you?
Stevens Creek supports a medical outreach program, several foreign missions, and a homeless shelter in downtown Augusta.
And yes, it takes money to do that.
Great. Can I get you anything else?
Missions coordinator Dorna Adams will gladly show the church's tithing dollars, including her own, at work.
We are called to give 10%. My husband and I, our family, we believe in that.
Go ahead and put all your stuff right in here.
That. So does volunteer Connie Sievertson.
Did you find a shirt that would work for you?
For her, tithing is bedrock, not to be questioned.
The Lord says if you tithe, you know, he will, anything else that you may have to skimp on because you've tithed, he will fulfill that.
To tithe or not to tithe, that is the question no one asks here.
It makes me feel good. You need anything else?
Here, they ask instead, what if everybody tithed? Think how much more could be done.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to help you out.
I appreciate it. I really do. Me and my wife.
Good. Excellent. Thank you.